Greetings and good day, everybody. Welcome to 2018 and another episode of the G Show podcast. I am G1, and this is a brand new show that we're going to start and try for 2018 called Fan Casting with Chris. That's right. This show, my man C.Monty is going to take over the reins and host. I am going to sit back and relax and listen to him fan cast certain properties coming out this year and the future. So sit back, relax, and get ready for a fun ride. Take it away, Chris.
What's up, everybody? I pushed for this podcast with Ray because, as we all know recently, Disney acquired the entertainment side of Fox News Corp, like 20th Century Fox. And that opens the door to all sorts of possibilities. Obviously, we know in the Marvel Universe, because Fox had the rights to Fantastic Four and X-Men, and now that Disney bought them, that means that Marvel now has the rights for Fantastic Four and X-Men. And they can start throwing those characters into the MCU. Now, not really going to go into speculation about what's like moving. Like, a lot of people are worried. I do believe that the way to make it work is to basically reboot the whole thing from scratch. It'd be a little bit weird to just try and bring the already established universes together, because there are things that happen in the X-Men universe that didn't happen in the MCU. There are things that happen in the MCU that didn't happen in the X-Men universe. So those two universes don't gel together. You can't just bring the established actors as they are now. You can't just bring Fassbender in as Magneto and McAvoy in as Professor X and everything like that. You can't start bringing those characters in because they're going to be in a completely separate reality from what was going on with the MCU, and those two things can't gel. So, obviously, Disney and Marvel are going to have to reboot those universes and to make it mesh with their own, which means we're going to have to come up with all new actors to play these characters. And this is where the fun times begin. Woo! Because we, in this podcast, at least this first one, are going to try and determine who we feel might be some of the best actors to fill these roles. So, I am going to start with the Fantastic Four. I have my notes here. Grab these real quick. So, Fantastic Four, the first thing I thought of right off the bat for Reed Richards was John Hamm. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but there's something about John Hamm has that kind of cockiness to him, and that's the thing with characters like Tony Stark and Reed Richards and Doctor Strange and everything like that, is that they're the best in their fields and they know it, and they're kind of arrogant, and I think John Hamm can really play that. But there was something else, because I'm gonna have to admit that a lot of these that I have on here weren't necessarily my idea. Like, I scanned the internet and saw other people's ideas, and I was like, I can rock with that, and I'm gonna go with it. So one of the other names that came up is a familiar name, being as how they're not going to be able to bring him into the universe as Magneto. They're going to have to establish a new Magneto. Michael Fassbender might be a good choice for Reed Richards. And I'll tell you why. Because the person who I basically ripped this idea off from, I'm admitting that, they said if he just basically plays Reed Richards the way he played Steve Jobs in the Steve Jobs movie, that's perfect. Because that's kind of how Reed Richards is. A super smart guy who's like really as charismatic as he can be, really arrogant about how smart he is. So I think John Hamm and Michael Fassbender right now are my leading contenders for Reed Richards. Ray, I'm not sure what you think, if you want to put 2 cents in, if you want me to just keep going.
I want to just say, I actually love both choices. The Michael Fassbender thing, how today is, we get it, us geeks get it, movie geeks might get it, but then you have people like, let's say my mom might go to the movies and go, hey, wait a minute, isn't that Magneto guy? And so the Fassbender thing might throw, because there's still people who think Rogue One is the sequel to Force Awakens. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, no, not easy.
That's true, but like we already have an established baseline in the MCU for actors who have already played other Marvel characters under different studios, and then came with like Steve Rogers, Captain America, Chris Evans. He was Johnny Storm in the original Fantastic Four.
But he was there for only 2 movies. But he was only there for 2 movies and 2 shitty movies. Fassbender, he was a bigger name at the time. Let's put it in perspective. Chris Evans now is a superstar behind Captain America, but back then he was just a pretty boy. He really was.
That's true.
Where I think Fassbender has a little bit more pop to his name.
Yeah. I'm not saying there wouldn't be a level of adjustment for people who aren't as into it and don't recognize the differences as much as we'd like. I get that. I just think that based on what the fan casting that I read, where they compared his role as Steve Jobs to Reed Richards, I think it makes a lot of sense.
And I do like it. Don't get me wrong. I do like the Fassbender thing because I totally see that. But I also like the John Hamm a lot.
Yeah,
I do. He has a
and it's like a fresh face to bring into the whole thing.
Exactly. Now, I love the John Hamm thing, but I'm gonna be greedy here. I don't want him on that list because I want him to play Batman. You know what I'm saying? And I know that's not what we're talking about here, but just from a greedy fanboy perspective, I don't want him to be Mr. Fantastic only because I would love to see his Batman, especially after Baby Driver. So I'm like, let's do it.
I mean, like as it stands right now, there's the whole back and forth because now the most recent reports are saying that Ben Affleck is still interested in playing Batman, and that he might even still want to direct a Batman movie after the Matt Reeves one is done. So
I gotcha.
Even if we want to see John Hamm as Batman, it might not be happening anytime soon because if whatever tension there was between Ben Affleck and Warner Brothers is settling down and Ben Affleck is still interested in the role, we're going to be having Ben Affleck as Batman.
That's true because nobody said Ben Affleck sucked as Batman in those last couple movies. You're right. So, but no, I totally agree. Both choices are fantastic. I can't lie. I love Fassbender. The Jobs reference, that's crazy. And the John Hamm thing, I like a gruff looking Mr. Fantastic. I kind of dig that. I mean, I had nothing wrong with Ian Greville back in the day. You know what I'm saying? But I digress.
Yeah, because some people are saying maybe bring him back, but I just don't think that works. Like, it's one thing to take an actor like Fassbender, who is established as a completely different character in a different universe, and then making him a new character in this universe. It's something else entirely to take somebody who already played that character in a different universe and then plug him into this new universe with maybe whole new... Because you're not going to be able... Ian Grufford was in the movie with Chris Evans as Johnny Storm.
That's right.
Right off the bat, you're going to have the same Mr. Fantastic, but a completely different Johnny Storm. That's going to confuse people a lot more than seeing the previous Magneto now as Mr. Fantastic.
You're absolutely right. That will confuse the 200 people who've seen both those movies. No, but I think, no pun intended, these are both fantastic choices.
All right, good. So moving on to Sue Storm. Now, off the bat, I couldn't because one of my top choices for Sue Storm would have been Scarlett Johansson.
Ah, I like that.
But, as we all know, she's already Black Widow, so she's off the table. Some of the names that I saw coming up were Naomi Watts. Now, Naomi Watts works because she's in the same age range as Fassbender and John Hamm.
Yep.
So she's age appropriate for playing that character's, wife and everything like that. And I'm cool with Naomi Watts. I'm 100% on board with Naomi Watts. My thing is that I really want Catherine Winnick from Vikings, who plays Lagertha in Vikings, to be involved in this universe somehow. So I was right off the bat. I was like, you know what? Naomi Watts, let me put my girl Catherine Winnick in it because I really want to see her in this universe because I like looking at her. But then I was also thinking, because we're going to get to this in my X-Men casting a bit later. I was also thinking that if we go with Naomi Watts for Sue Storm, Catherine Winnick can be a decent Mystique.
Oh, to reboot, you're right.
Yeah.
I can't wait to talk about the X-Men stuff later. Oh, go on.
Cool. So right now, my choices are Catherine Winnick and Naomi Watts. I agree with the Naomi Watts thing. If Naomi Watts winds up, if it's something like, because they could wind up casting someone completely different that we haven't even thought of.
Right.
They could be somebody completely new that we've never even heard of. You know, but if Naomi Watts gets the part, I'm fine as long as Catherine Winnick gets involved in the universe somehow because I want to see her in it. My Johnny Storm choices. Now, again, this is another one where I read somebody else's pitch and I agreed with it. And then based on their pitch, I thought of somebody else who could play the part as well. Because these two actors have worked together in a series of movies before. So the first one off the top was Dave Franco.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, Dave Franco, I think, would make a really great Johnny Storm. But another actor who jumped into mind after seeing Dave Franco, because they worked together in Neighbors and Neighbors 2, and I think this actor could really nail down that kind of cockiness and everything like that Johnny Storm has, Zac Efron.
Huh.
So I think either one of them, I'm fine with either one of them, no matter which one. If these names pop up and Disney goes with either one, either Dave Franco or Zac Efron, I'm totally fine. I'm happy with both choices.
I'll tell you what. I like both choices. I really do. I think Zac Efron would appeal more to the ladies.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them prove they got comedy chops. I think I would give the edge to Efron. He's got a certain likability about him. Like I can't watch any High School Musical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's something about this dude that I like. I say, you know what? I look at this kid and I say, this kid's got it. He's gonna be something. He's gonna be a major player in about 10 years. You give him a role like this right now and basically reboot the Fantastic Four.
He kind of already is getting to that point where he's an A-list name.
Right, exactly. And you give him something like this. Yeah, you give him something like this, and it's like now it's through the stratosphere. So I would lean for Zac Efron. I like that a lot. I really do like that choice.
Yeah. So like I said, happy with either one. I think we can both say like the edge would go to Zac Efron just because of name recognition and all that stuff. So next up, we got to do Ben Grimm, a.k.a. The Thing.
The ever-loving Thing.
Now, this one, I ran through a whole bunch of different things. Casting Ben Grimm isn't really that huge of a thing because once we get past the origin point, he becomes the Thing, and then he's just the orange rock monster for the rest of the movies. So whoever plays him in his human form isn't necessarily as important, which is why I know this is like a thing on the internet where people are like, oh, I was thinking Leslie Odom Jr. Now, the reason why I feel that might be controversial to a bunch of people is because Leslie Odom Jr., if you're not familiar with him, is black. He played a role in Person of Interest. He was in the play Hamilton. He was in Murder on the Orient Express remake.
Yes, he was.
And so I think he's a solid actor. He's a great actor. He's got chops to him and everything like that. And I think he could play a good Ben Grimm pre-transition. And then the reason why I also like him, once you go to the transition and you do the voice, it's a natural progression to Keith David as the voice of the Thing. Because he has that graveliness to him. So now I think that's another thing that's controversial about it because like you have Leslie Odom Jr. playing the original Ben Grimm, and then he transforms and a completely different actor comes in and plays the voice. So it's almost like, what are you even paying Leslie Odom Jr. to be there for? Again, this is a personal preference. This is a personal thing. I think Leslie Odom could bring the humanity of Ben Grimm to the role while he's still in human form. And then once you get into the transition to the Thing, Keith David as the voice is just iconic.
That's true. Wow. I mean, I personally...
Leslie Odom could do something with they could cast him as Ben Grimm and then have him do the voice, and he could do something with the voice where I'm just like, hey, you know what? I wasn't expecting that from him, and I'm actually glad they chose to just stick with him rather than bring in a completely different actor to do the voice.
Yeah, I mean, you can modulate the voice. Look at Ben Affleck's Batman.
Exactly.
You know, so I mean, I would stick with that, but I love the Keith David thing. I really do. Yeah, I like Leslie Odom Jr. I do. I see Murder on Orient Express. I mean, everybody had a small role, but everybody performed it. He did. I'm not mad at that. And in today's day and age, they'll do things like that. I mean, we've seen, Michael B. Jordan as Johnny Storm, which is funny considering hopefully Captain America and him maybe run into each other. I love it. He's going to be in Black Panther, so... because I honestly haven't thought about it. The Thing, it's just a rock monster, like you said. So whoever you cast to play him, to me, it becomes irrelevant because depending on how far you want to progress in the story before, their accident, that's the amount of screen time Ben Grimm is going to have.
The Ben Grimm role isn't really all that important anyway. Like, it's important to establish his character pre-transition and everything like that, but like you said, depending on how long we see them before they get their powers, maybe 15, 20 minutes into the movie, 20 minutes after, he's going to be the giant orange rock monster for the rest of the thing. So having him, whether he's white or black, is kind of more irrelevant than any other character because he's not going to be in that form for very long.
Right.
Now, finally, and this is an important one, the villain, Victor Von Doom, Dr. Doom. Who do we get to play that role?
Michael Fassbender.
He could be a good alternate if he doesn't do Mr. Fantastic. A lot of names have come up for this. One of the ones that was, again, one of my top choices, which they unfortunately, Marvel kind of backed themselves into a corner by casting him as Caecilius, or however you pronounce the name in Doctor Strange, was Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think he would have been a great Doctor Doom, but unfortunately, to have it in the Marvel Universe, it doesn't work anymore because he already played a villain in the Marvel Universe. So I was thinking something more fresh-faced. Not necessarily fresh-faced. He's been in a movie that we've all seen. Wasn't a big role. A lot of people might not know him because he hasn't really been in big American roles before. But guy named August Deal. All right, I think I'm pronouncing that right. A German actor. You've seen Inglourious Bastards, right?
Of course.
You remember the bar scene where they're trying to meet with the person who's going to get the tickets into the show and everything like that, and there's that officer that comes over and he's kind of antagonizing him and he catches out who they are because he puts up the wrong fingers for 3, that dude.
Okay.
That's August Deal.
Yeah, I'm looking at him right now. Excuse me. I'm looking at him right now just to get a feel for him.
And the reason I said it is because of the Inglourious Bastard scenes. The way he played that role, small as it was, in that bar scene in Inglourious Bastard, when I was thinking of Dr. Doom and I was thinking about actors who could play him, I immediately went to that guy. Because of the way he played that one little scene and everything like that. And so I kind of like him as a prospective Dr. Doom. And again, like I said, he's kind of more of an obscure actor. A lot of people aren't familiar with his work and everything like that. But that's just the face that popped into my head when I was thinking about Dr. Doom.
I have no Doom. He's I think when you cast Doom, you gotta cast big. You know? I think you're definitely gonna have to cast big because you're gonna want somebody to bring some type of gravitas to a villain like Doom. And the problem with Marvel movies is they don't really do villains right.
Yeah.
Spider-Man Homecoming is an exception, but you could say that's a joint venture with Sony. Fox pretty much did the villains right. I mean, again, Magneto. It wasn't just throwaway character of the month. They're Fantastic Four. They fell. Both times they failed. All three times they failed with Doom.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm personally stumped here. I didn't even give this any type of thought. Now I'm kind of kicking myself. Who could play a Doom? Because, like you said, Mads Mikkelsen would have been perfect. I really like that. That would have been perfect. But
and I'm saying, like, take this guy out this deal. Go back and watch that scene in Inglourious Basterds. Go back and watch that bar scene. And watch how he plays that kind of intense arrogance. Like, watch how he plays that role of this guy who finds these spies out and everything like that and gets into the shootout. Watch that scene. And come, like, obviously not during the podcast, but come back and tell me if you don't say, like, you know what, Chris, I kind of see where you're going with this.
Well, I just thought of right now, just right off the top of the head, I would like to see be Doom, who I think could play a good Doom.
Mm-hmm.
Colin Firth. I think,
He could. Yeah, I was thinking more along the lines of, like, picking an actual Eastern European actor.
Yeah, I got you.
I started thinking about people like Christoph Waltz.
That would be a great choice, too, though.
Yeah. But, like, there was something, again, going back, there was something about this dude, August Deal. The way he played that one specific scene in Inglourious Basterds. My mind just keeps going back then. I'm thinking, that's Doom. To me, that's Victor Von Doom. I'm telling you, go back and watch that scene.
Yeah, I got to do that because I got to see what you're saying. The scary thing with me and Doctor Doom is it's Doctor Doom. And if you want to introduce Doctor Doom into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's rough because of where they're at. And you talk about it, man. I don't want to see, what they did with him in either previous Fantastic Four movies. But this universe has already been established, So Latveria should have already been established. There should have been a monarch there. Unless he comes to power during,
they could, in future movies, they could say, like, oh, there's been, like, the new monarch of Latveria has said, like, it could have been ruled by his father.
Yeah.
And now, like, that's the way they introduce it. It's breaking news. Victor Von Doom is now taking over Latveria. Like, the original ruler has now passed and his son is taking the throne.
Yeah, I could see it like that. And honestly, I would probably... I know this is fan casting and I'm over here doing the speculation game. Sorry. I would probably do away with the relationship between Doom and Reed Richards.
Mm-hmm. Just to play a little bit more with where you're going. It could be something where they don't have a previous relationship, but so Latveria was not really a major player, previously in the Marvel Universe. We never heard of him. And it could be like that. Again, this is introducing them the same way they kind of introduced the idea of Black Panther in the Marvel Universe. You had that one offhand line in Age of Ultron. It's like, Wakanda, and that establishes the idea of Wakanda in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and then from there you move on to T'Challa and, the Black Panther. You do the same thing here. So maybe he takes over Latveria, and they introduced the idea of him and Reed Richards' relationship as being a competitive thing, almost like a Cold War kind of thing. Well, Latveria is starting to focus more on technology and space and everything like that now, because Victor is in control and that's what he wants to do. And then Reed Richards is doing this whole experiment, and Dr. Doom is trying to do the same thing, and that's how they clash.
I can see that. When you said that, they never met. I could see something along the lines too of maybe Doom gets in touch with Reed and says, "Listen, I'm working on this power source that's going to change the world the way we know it, to better the future of everyone." And of course, there's it's Doom, so there's something sinister behind the whole thing. Yeah. And that's where their relationship starts, but not like a lovey-dovey. Reed Richards is like, oh yeah, and maybe one of them has the formula to solve a problem the other one needed to solve in order to... And then when Reed finally realizes, wait a minute, this is not the way it's supposed to go, sabotages it, causes Victor Von Doom to become disfigured and don the ultimate mask, the ultimate mask, the classic Doctor Doom garb.
Yep. So yeah, but that's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves in how they introduce characters in there.
Yeah, for real.
Who's going to play the character? And I'm really, again, I don't know what it is about this guy and the way he played that one particular scene, but I'm really stuck on this August Deal dude. But yeah, so that's Fantastic Four. We've got that, Now
let me. I didn't touch upon the Sue Storm stuff. I want to just real quick go back because the Naomi Watts, I would choose her over there. This is what I would do. Being Fantastic Four has been established in Marvel as like the first family comic books. What I would do is I would have John Hamm and Naomi Watts playing Mr. and Mrs. Fantastic. I would have them be older. I would bring in a Dave Franco or Zac Efron as a younger Johnny Storm. That's why I would go with Colin Firth as Doom because he could play along in that same age as Reed and Susan. And then of course Ben Grimm is Ben Grimm. It doesn't really matter, but it would be somebody closer to the age of John Hamm because he's got to be his best friend. He's got to be that dude. But I would really actually like to see like this older superhero family instead of everybody being young. Because Tony Stark wasn't that young. He was relatively 40 years old when Iron Man starts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's true. But at the same time, again, the actress that I picked, Catherine Winnick from Vikings, you see Vikings and you look at her and she looks like kind of a young actress, but she's actually in her late 30s, I think, going into her 40s. So it lines up.
Oh, in that case, yeah. But I think Naomi Watts the star power because
that's true.
When you mentioned the X-Men thing, I was and I looked at her picture. I was like, yep, there's some ideas there.
Yep. Okay. So on that note,
whoa! You forgot one of the most important characters.
Who?
Herbie.
Who?
You know Herbie, their little robot friend?
The fuck out of here.
Come on, man. Wait you...
Nah, I didn't put no thought into that.
Come on, man. You could use R2-D2. You could use BB-8 now. They're all part of the same family, right?
I hate you so much, Ray. Okay, now, transitioning the X-Men. There's going to be some controversial choices in here. It's going to be some choices that some people might not have thought of because I didn't think of. But obviously some people did because I kind of jacked a few other people's ideas. Yeah, so you think about it in terms because, for instance, going into the original X-Men franchise, Patrick Stewart was such an obvious choice for Professor X. And then James McAvoy did a really great job as a young Professor X. But, as a kid growing up, in the 90s and everything like that, and you saw, Star Trek Next Generation, and you were watching an X-Men cartoon, and you looked at the two things, and you look at Captain Picard, and you're like, that's Professor X. So it's hard now, because it was such a perfect and obvious choice, you start thinking, well, who can be Professor X if Patrick Stewart's not going to be it? And there was a name that, as I was looking through possible actors, there's a name that somebody suggested on the fan casting thing that I hadn't thought of. Now that I've seen it, I was like, I can absolutely see this guy as Professor X, but it's not someone you might have thought of, and that name is Mark Strong. I think Mark Strong could be, we've seen him as Merlin in
Kingsman.
He was Blackheart or Blackthorn or Blackstone or whatever the fuck they called him in that Guy Ritchie in the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock movie. Mark Strong has played a lot of great roles, and I think he could do a really great job as Professor X.
I like that casting, man.
Yeah. So it was a name that somebody threw out there on a fan casting sign. I was like, you know what? I can see it. Because I was thinking of people like, maybe Bryan Cranston rocks the bald cap again.
Right.
Something like that. And, he could be a good... But once I saw the name Mark Strong, I was like, boom, locked in. I'm on this guy. This is who I want. For Magneto, this was another one. Because, again, Michael Fassbender is doing such a great job as Magneto. And it would have been nice to see him grow into the role as he got older and as the universe kept continuing and everything like that. Not to take away from anything that Ian McKellen did, but again, now that we're going to have to, like, if we're going to be rebooting the entire thing, we can't bring Fassbender over back as Magneto, even as good as a job as he's been doing. So a name that came up that when I saw it, I was like, holy shit, I would have never thought of that, but I absolutely love it. Viggo Mortensen.
Yo.
My man Aragon.
Yo, the devil himself from the prophecy.
Exactly.
I like that, man.
History of violence.
History of violence, yep.
Eastern Promises.
Wow.
G.I. Jane. Oh my God. Like, he's so good at being an antagonist, but an antagonist you can get behind.
Actually, Viggo Mortensen is Dr. Doom.
That could work too.
Holy
that
shit.
Could work too.
Man.
You know, because I also saw people toss out his name as Dr. Doom too when I was going through all the sites and everything like that. But by that point, I had already been so stuck on him being Magneto. I was like, nah, he's Magneto. So yeah, those are my two big choices. The other ones, you know, not as important. Well, obviously important. Like, not as iconic as Professor X and like the main villain of the X-Men universe. Now, my choice for Cyclops is a name that's been coming up a lot for people's choices to replace Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Of course, my choice for Wolverine is out the window now because Sony fucked us over by doing that Venom movie. Has nothing to do with Spider-Man, because Tom Hardy would have been the perfect Wolverine in lieu of Hugh Jackman. But a lot of people have also been tossing this name out for Wolverine, and me personally, I see him more of a Cyclops, and that's Scott Eastwood.
Oh, man. See? Fuck. Again, I want to keep that name away from the Marvel side of things. Again, it's my DC fanboy coming out, because I still, even though they're demolishing that universe, I still believe that Scott Eastwood is Grayson, is Dick Grayson. He was undercover. They were using that whole thing. I swear to God, that's just fan theory. I'm sorry, brother.
Yeah, but I can see you. I can see you on that. I think you just look at Scott Eastwood and you see Cyclops.
I see Dick Grayson, but I get it. And I gotta be honest with you, I do see Wolverine, though.
Now, Jean Grey was a little bit harder for me, because there are actresses that are obvious choices, but if you go with Scott Eastwood as Cyclops, then you have to have an actress that's more in his age range. So when you start thinking about actresses like Bryce Dallas Howard, Christina Hendricks, Jessica Chastain, these would all be great older versions of Jean Grey, but they're a little bit older than Scott, because Scott Eastwood is only 30, 31.
Right.
And those actresses are more in the late. And not that doesn't work. I don't have a problem with an older actress being paired down with a younger actor, because we see it with older actors being paired down with younger actresses all the time.
Right.
You know, knowing how Hollywood is, they're probably not going to do that. So you kind of have to try and look for actresses that look the role, that look the part, that are more within the actual age range of, you know, someone like a Scott Eastwood, if that's who you go with, the Cyclops. They could go with an older actor as Cyclops, and then it would work to have those actresses playing. So as I was going through, I basically just Googled red-haired actresses.
You sell out. It's such a cheap trick.
I know. One of the names that came up, though, when I saw it, I had no idea what this was. I know, one role that she's played, and it's an actress named Holland Roden, and she's from Teen Wolf on MTV.
I know who you're talking about.
And then I started thinking about, I only watched the first season of Teen Wolf, and then I was thinking about that actress and the character she played, and I was like, you know what? I actually can see her as Jean Grey.
Yeah, so, she's perfect.
I put that down because she fits the role. She would work well with Scott Eastwood as Cyclops. So those are my choices right there. For Beast, I would go with Dan Stevens, although that's kind of tricky because he's already been established as Legion on FX. So I might have to rethink that now. I wasn't there. I wasn't thinking about that when I put him down as Beast.
You just did that. Basically, what you're doing is taking him from Beauty and the Beast and just dropping him in the X-Men universe.
Exactly. But now it's just dawned on me that he's already established. Well, he's established in a different X-Men universe though, so it still can work.
I mean, you got Michael Fassbender as Reed Richards, so
I really do like Dan Stevens as Legion though. Like, I'm gonna stick with him as Beast. For Wolverine, I have a couple of different. I have like 4 here on my list that I think could work. These were all names that, again, were tossed up on different sites, and as I was looking at them, I was like, you know what? I like this. You know what's funny? Before I even get there, I just want to mention there's more than one site that is throwing out Shia LaBeouf as Wolverine, and I don't fucking get it.
I think maybe they're trolling.
I hope so, because I don't get how anyone can say, who can we get to play Wolverine? Oh, I know, Shia LaBeouf.
Just do it. Just do it.
I don't get how anyone's head goes to that place.
Oh, man. That's so good.
Anyway, so 2 of these actors are both from Vikings, which is a favorite show of mine. The first one is Clive Standen, who plays Rollo. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the show Vikings or who Rollo is. Now, this is another one where people would kind of bitch about, like, because everybody wants, like, the short, jacked Wolverine, and Clive Standen is, like, 6'1", 6'2". And I'm like, if you're going off the height thing, Hugh Jackman was, like, 6 feet tall, 6'1". So we've already established that someone who doesn't necessarily look how you picture Wolverine and physically in the comics and everything can still play a really great Wolverine. So even though Clive Standen is taller than what Wolverine is supposed to be in the books, I think from what you see of him in Vikings, he would make a great Wolverine. So we just disregard that height thing because he's still jacked as hell. And I think he would play a great Logan. The other one, on the other side of that, is his brother on the show, my man Ragnar Lothbrok, Travis Fimmel. I think Travis Fimmel could also play a really great Wolverine. So those are the 2 nominees from the Viking show, although I would probably give the edge to Clive Standen just because, not just performance-wise, but like he has the darker hair, he kind of looks more like Wolverine than Travis Fimmel does. Travis Fimmel, I think, would just have a really great performance. He would have to like dye his hair, and he has blue eyes, so he might have to wear like contacts to darken his eyes. The other 2 names, one that came up was Luke Evans, and I saw that and I was like, you know what? I can see Luke Evans as Wolverine, but I could also see Luke Evans in a bald cap as Professor X.
Yeah, so, I was just thinking the same thing. I could see him as Professor X.
So, if not Mark Strong, and if not Wolverine, then I think Luke Evans has a place in the X-Men universe as a possible Professor X as well. And then finally, the other name that came up, Wolverine, that is one that I wouldn't have thought of, but once I saw it, I was like, you know what? I see it. Garrett Hedlund. Most people might not think of him because when you think of Garrett Hedlund, you think about the role he played in Tron Legacy, or you think about him as the youngest brother in 4 Brothers. You might think about him as young Captain Hook in that Pan movie. But the reason why I think he would make a great Wolverine is because of Death Sentence. Have you seen Death Sentence with Kevin Bacon?
No.
Go and watch that movie and look at Garrett Hedlund in that movie and come back and tell me that you might not be able to see him as Wolverine. Because I think you watch that movie, you'll be like, you know what, he works. He goes to a really dark place in that movie. And he's more of the villain in that movie than anything else. But because of the darkness that he taps into. I can see him as a Wolverine. And he got jacked for that movie, too. So he looks more physically imposing than you normally picture him as.
He's wearing a bald hat. He's bald in that movie, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I could see the intensity in one of these pictures. Just in his eyes, I could see Wolverine.
Yep. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I could see that. I watched the movie, but just this one picture I'm looking at right now, the intensity in his eyes, that's definitely a Wolverine about to go berserk.
Exactly. Now, we've touched on Wolverine. We got to go with Wolverine's big bad brother, who can play him. Just off of this fan picture that's been floating around the internet, this fan art that came up after Stranger Things Season 2 came out. Somebody photoshopped David Harbour.
Oh, man.
As Sabretooth. And it looks so insanely perfect that I'm like, I will accept no one else. I don't care if he's playing Hellboy.
He's Hellboy.
He did the Photoshop of him as Sabretooth. Looks like they just drew Sabretooth in the... It looks like whoever designed Sabretooth in the comic books, had a vision of the future and saw David Harbour. That's our character design. That's how fucking perfect that look was. So, considering we know he can get in shape based on what we saw of him in...
those Hellboy pictures.
Hellboy picture, because he looks ripped in that picture.
Yeah, he's jacked, man.
So, I see what you did there. He's jacked, man.
I was bad.
No, but yeah, I Liev Schreiber did a really great job playing Sabretooth in the Wolverine origin movie.
Just in a bad movie.
Yeah, just he got the character down so well. But he didn't really look like Sabretooth.
Yeah.
So if you take somebody who has Liev Schreiber's chops and who could kind of have the look that Tyler Mane had in the original X-Men movie, and you smash those together, you get kind of like a David Harbour, which is why I think he'd be perfect for that role. Iceman, I went with Dylan O'Brien of Teen Wolf and Maze Runner fame.
An American Assassin?
American Assassin.
I can see that.
Mm-hmm. For Angel, because, in these movies, they kind of introduced Angel later on. He was in the third movie in the original run. They put him in X-Men Apocalypse.
Which was the third movie of the new run.
Yeah. So, but I'm thinking because Angel, people forget that Angel was one of the original team members of the original run of the X-Men. So, I'm thinking you got to throw him in right off the bat. And I'm thinking Taron Egerton from Kingsman. I think he looks the part. I think he would play the role really great. For Storm, this is one of the ones that I'm most excited about because we're going to get to see Storm and Black Panther, together. It's going to be great. I can't wait for the King and Queen of Wakanda.
I'm with you on that. I got him. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. But, see now, again, this is another one thing where, it kind of sucks that Marvel made certain moves before they were able to make this deal happen because right off the bat, I'm thinking Storm, Lupita Nyong'o.
Absolutely.
She's gorgeous. Most iterations of Storm, you see her more light-skinned, but I think it would be great to see a darker-skinned black woman represented as Storm. And just unfortunately, though, she's one of the Dora Milaje.
Yep.
So she's already established in the Marvel Universe, so we can't really go with her. The other name that came up for me, which again, this would be playing into the more lighter skin version, but Gugu Mbatha Raw.
Yeah.
She's age appropriate for Chadwick Boseman. She has the chops. I think she would be a great Storm. So that's who I put down as my Storm. Again, really, not that I have anything against her, but just it was really a matter of who can fit the role that isn't Lupita Nyong'o. Because unfortunately, in Lupita Nyong'o, who I really wanted for that role. Rogue. This again was another name that was thrown out there by by a different site. That once I saw it, I was like, okay, I can see it, I can rock with it. Haley Steinfeld. This is again, I put that down because I really couldn't think of anyone else.
Right.
out there. I was like, I can't think of anything. She can fit the role, so I'll just roll with it. I'll just rock with it. Jubilee. I'm thinking Wen Han from the Karate Kid remake. She's probably a little bit older now, but I think she could be a good Jubilee.
What's her name?
Wen Han. You know the love interest from the Karate Kid remake with Jaden?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like, just because it's different than some of the already established Asian actresses that we have.
I'm going with the girl from Star Wars, Rose.
Kelly Marie Tran?
Yeah.
I could see it. Get the girl who played her sister, then we'll talk.
Yeah.
In the 2 seconds that she was in the movie, she was a more intriguing actress to me.
I give you that. She was.
All right, so now we're down pretty much like the last name on my list that I came up with, because I was trying to think of other characters who I'd want to see, there's a shit ton of characters in the X-Men universe.
I noticed.
It would take forever to list every single character and an actor that could play them. So the last one I got down to was Kitty Pryde. And this is one where, again, it gets a little bit different. I was thinking Kiersey Clemons from Dope. She was slated to play Iris West in the Flash movie. And now they're talking about scrapping her altogether.
She has a scene in Justice League. They just cut it.
Yeah, but now I've been reading reports that they're talking about scrapping her as Iris West altogether. Since they cut that scene, she's not established in the universe, and they're thinking about replacing her.
Huh.
That would make her free to play Kitty Pryde.
I'm trying to think of a Kitty Pryde. Hey, she fits the bill. I mean, again, it's different where we live today.
You could always get Chloe Moretz as somebody.
You could. You definitely could. Or I would see Haley Steinfeld as Kitty Pryde more than Rogue.
That's true.
So Rogue, I'd cast a little older. I would really cast a little older for Rogue. And it's crazy right now because I'm drawing complete blanks.
Yeah, because I was trying to think of other iconic characters, like who would you get as Gambit? But
we already know who's Gambit. It's Channing Tatum.
They might not go with him.
I know.
They're taking things in a different direction.
If that movie even goes, because I don't think it's happening.
Like someone like a Colossus doesn't really matter.
No.
Because I'll be spending most of the movie in his metal form.
And he's already, he's not really established, but we already have Colossus in Deadpool.
Yeah. I might just stick with that same dude.
Exactly.
That would be easier to transition. But again, this is something that as time goes on, you could always come. Because again, there are probably more people in the X-Men universe than there are people on Earth, actually. So, as time goes on, you're going to think of a new character, and you're going to be like, oh, okay, who could play this dude? All right, that guy. Whenever we do any of these fan casting things, we could be fan casting for Godzilla and suddenly be like, oh, you know who else could work for this X-Men character?
Bryan Cranston.
Exactly. There's always going to be room to cast more X-Men characters because there's thousands of them.
Oh, man, I just got the perfect idea for Quicksilver.
But they already have a Quicksilver in the MCU.
Exactly. They can bring him right back to life.
Who?
My man Floyd Brody.
Huh?
My man Floyd Brody from Godzilla. Come on, man.
Oh, yeah.
See, I'm thinking about it now, too. It's kind of crazy. Because Disney did such a good job casting their MCU.
Yeah.
They really did. They really took a lot of people off the playing field. They took a lot of people off the table. And so I'm looking at these, because if you think about it, who was an unknown going into any of these Marvel movies? Playing like a lead role. You could make a claim maybe the Olsen girl.
Yeah.
She wasn't a superstar by any means necessary, but now more eyes are on her than any other movie. Who else? That's about probably it. I mean, I don't want to say like Tom Hiddleston because I don't know his body of work before Thor. You know what I mean? But exactly. I know him because of Thor. I don't think there was
anyone who was really like an unknown, just like less known.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. And I think that's like what a lot of these people here, well, more for the X-Men. The Wolverine stuff, besides Luke Evans, I don't know who the other guys are. Vikings? I didn't watch. My wife would have known all of them because she loves that show too.
You should check it out. I think you would dig it.
She says that all the time too. It's just like I have to, I'll eventually get around to it. Eventually. But it's the same thing. Like with Doom, you got that one particular scene from Inglourious Bastards. But who is that guy? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's rough there. It's rough. Dan Stevens, the same thing. I mean, I only knew Dan Stevens because of Legion, but I didn't watch Legion. I watched the first episode and I was like, yeah, I'm not feeling this. And then when I heard he was playing the Beast, I was like, oh, that guy. All right, cool.
See, I knew Dan Stevens more from what was that movie he did? I can't recall the name of it now. He's comes to his family's house. Like, apparently he was, like, in the same squadron as their son that got killed.
Is it a recent movie?
I'll look it up for you right now. Because it's going to bother me if I don't know.
It sounds
called, like, Stranger or something like that. Give me 1 second.
Oh, no. Don't think it's something else.
The Guest. If you haven't seen The Guest, bro, you would love The Guest. You got to see The Guest.
Okay.
It's one of those movies that I think, like, knowing what your tastes are, it's, like, right up your alley.
I mean, there's some solid stuff here. I can't lie. I could, with the exception of Wolverine, because I don't know those characters, but just looking at some of them, I can see it.
Looking up that picture of Garrett Hedlund from Death Sentence, you said, like, looking in his eyes, there's that intensity there.
Right.
Like him bringing that to Wolverine.
I will say this, though. I really do like that John Hamm and Reed Richards, but I really like him better as Batman. I really like Naomi Watts as Sue Storm. I really like that older first family, if you will.
Yeah.
Mark Strong or Luke Evans as Professor X, I am down with 100%. The Viggo Mortensen, Doom or Magneto, I don't care. Either one. I would go more Doom.
Sorry to cut you off. I would look forward to a moment, especially if Viggo Mortensen is playing Magneto. I would look forward to a moment where, like, he's introduced to Wanda. You have that whole thing, like, oh, our parents were killed by that Stark bomb in Sokovia and everything like that. And Magneto's like, no, I am your father. Because you could easily retcon that, because you could have it like Magneto was their biological father. And then when they were really young, he got chased away for being who he was.
You could, but they kind of established...
The mother got remarried, and that's who they thought their parents were, and they died when Tony Stark's bomb went off in Sokovia or whatever like that. You could easily retcon that him being their biological father. They just didn't know because they were very young when he left.
You could, but they kind of established that their abilities were the cause of the Tesseract.
But were their abilities created exclusively by the Tesseract, or just enhanced latent abilities that they already had?
That you can make an argument for, because that's not explained.
Exactly. Because talk about the idea, already in the Marvel universe, even in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you have this idea of people who got powers from science experiments and everything like that, like, Captain America, the Hulk, and everything like that. You have people who, like the Inhumans, they had latent abilities that were unlocked by the Terrigenesis.
Right.
And also talk about the idea of enhanced humans. They didn't say metahumans, they said enhanced humans and everything like that. Or even metahumans, you could say, because they weren't allowed to say mutant for as long as Fox still owned the rights to mutants. But now we could transition that. And so we could have the idea of these people who already had these abilities that weren't really, like, fully awakened yet, and now it starts to come out because of, like, these things that are happening in the Marvel Universe now. Wanda and Pietro could have easily already had those abilities, and they were just latent abilities that were, kind of unlocked by the Tesseract.
I tell you right now, it's going to come down to whatever happens in Infinity War. Something major is going to change and affect the Earth, and they're going to bring about mutations, and that's where we're going to get the mutants, so they can actually use the word.
Yeah, but I think it would be cool to have it be that they've already been established and just kind of been living in the shadows, and then, like, they've been kind of keeping things in the wrap, and then something happens, and they just kind of show up and, like, hey, we exist too. But, like, for instance, you take someone like a Magneto, who, you look at his backstory, he wasn't always like this big out in the open villain that was trying to dominate humanity. They're like, you go back to the backstory of Pietro and Wanda and everything like that, and there was an actual storyline where he lived peacefully in a village with his kids, and they kind of touched on it in Apocalypse. They did it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Like, he was peacefully in a village with his kids till somebody figured out who he was and what he was capable of doing, and they chased him out. And those are kind of the things that brings his character to the point where he's just like, fuck it. We're more advanced than humans anyway. But you could have that he's been living in hiding till finally he sees what's going on in the world and the way things are shifting. And he's like, you know what? Mutants forever, baby. Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
I can see it.
Oh, I forgot to touch on Mystique. So I said, because, I said if Catherine Winnick wasn't Sue Storm, I wouldn't mind seeing her as Mystique. But other people I wouldn't see mine as Mystique would be Charlize Theron, because she has the physicality for it. Or if they go for a younger Mystique, Sophia Boutella.
Yeah.
Also because she has the physicality for it.
I like that one.
I just feel like I would want to go with a slightly older actress so we can have her be old enough to have had Nightcrawler.
And do it legit the right way.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how everything plays out in the coming years. Well, this year especially, with everything with Disney and Fox right now. Once all that red tape is cleared, where do we go? Who's taking over? Is Kevin Feige going to be still in charge? I know they said something that James Gunn is taking over Phase 4, or he'll be like the showrunner.
Yeah, so he'll be. I think James Gunn will be more like what Joss Whedon was for the Avengers, but Kevin Feige still runs Marvel Studios.
Right. It's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see and where they go and who they cast for what roles. I mean, the Fantastic Four is a given.
Yeah, that's the thing that's going to be really interesting. Because, again, we could be on the money with some of these roles. They could, Marvel could wind up going like, hey, you know what? Not saying that they would get it from our podcast, but saying, you know what, John Hamm, be a great Reed Richards, let's go with him. Yep. Or like, Viggo Mortensen would be a great Magneto, so let's go with him. We've been seeing these things throwing buzz around the internet. Let's give him a shot. Or they could come up with someone completely different that we didn't expect who does a phenomenal job. Or they could say, hey, the Reality Stone opened up a portal and we just brought all these guys over and now... They could do that. I think that would be cheap, but they could do that, and that would be a way to introduce the already established actors. I just hope they don't, because again, that would be really cheap.
And it would defeat the purpose of this podcast.
Exactly. Don't take this away from me, Marvel. That's all I got.
For now. But join us next week. When we recast the DCEU.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for this. I like this. I enjoy this podcast. I do. So this is going to be a regular thing in 2018, ladies and gentlemen. Fan casting with Chris. He's going to come up with these great casting ideas, and then it's my job to knock them down or big them up. And I can't knock them down, man. I do like, for who I know, I like everything fits. I could see everybody that I know in the roles you pick. The only thing the Viggo Mortensen, I like him as Doom. But again, I gotta go watch that scene from Inglourious Basterds now. But other than that, man, good fucking job, brother.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now close out your show.
So guys, these were my ideas for playing these roles if they bring these characters over. So, let us know. If you're listening, if you're a fan of the show, you're listening to this podcast, let us know in the comments. Do you agree with some of my choices? Do you disagree? Do you have some choices of your own? I might see them and be like, you know what? Next podcast, I'm throwing that out there. This person came up with a great idea. I'll even mention you. Hey, Blubbermaster69 on YouTube said that this guy would be a great role, and I agree with him. So feel free to let us know in the comments how you feel. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next Fan Casting with Chris.